Have you ever wondered about the civilizations that shaped our world? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most magnificent, influential, and long-lasting civilizations in human history, ancient Rome. From a small city-state on the Italian peninsula to a colossal empire that stretched across 3 continents, Rome's story is an epic tale of ambition, innovation, and power. So, buckle up, because we're about to journey back in time to walk the stone-paved streets of the Eternal City. It all began, as legend tells us, in 753 BC with the twin brothers Romulus and Remus. While the story of them being raised by a she-wolf is likely a myth, the reality is just as fascinating. Rome started as a humble kingdom, but it was its transition into a republic around 509 BC that truly set the stage for its greatness. The Roman Republic was a revolutionary concept for its time. It was built on the principles of elected officials, a powerful senate, and a complex system of laws. This political structure, with its checks and balances, allowed Rome to manage its growing territories and diverse populations effectively. It wasn't a perfect democracy by modern standards, but it laid the groundwork for many Western political systems we see today. The heart of the Republic's power was its legendary army. The Roman legions were more than just soldiers. They were highly disciplined, expertly trained, and brilliantly engineered fighting forces. Organized into centuries and cohorts, the legionaries were masters of formation tactics, like the famous testudo, or tortoise formation, where they'd lock their shields together to create an almost impenetrable shell against enemy arrows. Their success wasn't just about brute force. It was about logistics, engineering, and an unshakable will to win. Roman soldiers built roads, bridges, and fortifications wherever they went, literally paving the way for the empire's expansion. These roads, many of which are still visible today, connected the vast territories, allowing for rapid troop movement, efficient trade, and the spread of Roman culture. As the Republic expanded through a series of conflicts, most notably the Punic Wars against its great rival Carthage, it gained control of the Mediterranean Sea, which they called Mare Nostrum, our sea. This expansion brought immense wealth, resources, and unfortunately, a great deal of social and political turmoil. The gap between the ultra-rich patricians and the struggling plebeian class grew wider. Powerful generals like Marius Sulla and the one and only Julius Caesar began to command more loyalty from their troops than the state itself. This led to a series of brutal civil wars that would ultimately spell the end of the Republic. And that brings us to Julius Caesar. A brilliant military strategist, a charismatic politician, and a gifted writer, Caesar's ambition knew no bounds. His conquest of Gaul, what is now modern-day France, made him incredibly wealthy and popular. Fearing his power, his rivals in the Senate ordered him to disband his army. Caesar's response? He famously crossed the Rubicon River with his legion, a decisive act of rebellion that plunged Rome into another civil war. He emerged victorious, declared himself dictator for life, and initiated a series of reforms. But his absolute power was short-lived. In 44 BC, on the Ides of March, he was assassinated by a group of senators who feared he would destroy the Republic for good. Caesar's death didn't save the Republic. Instead, it triggered another power vacuum and more civil war. From the chaos, Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, rose to prominence. After defeating his rivals, Mark Antony and Cleopatra, at the Battle of Actium, Octavian skillfully consolidated his power. He learned from his great-uncle's mistakes. Instead of declaring himself dictator, he presented himself as the first citizen, or princeps, restoring the outward appearance of the Republic while holding all the real power. In 27 BC, the Senate granted him the title Augustus, meaning the revered one, and with that, the Roman Empire was born. The reign of Augustus ushered in an unprecedented era of peace and prosperity, known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. This period, lasting for about 200 years, was the golden age of the Roman Empire. With the borders secured and civil wars ended, trade flourished, the arts and literature thrived, and cities across the empire grew. This was the time of poets like Virgil and Ovid, and historians like Livy and Tacitus. It was also a time of incredible engineering marvels. The Romans were master builders. They perfected the use of the arch, the vault, and concrete, a revolutionary material that allowed them to construct massive, durable structures. Think about the Colosseum, the largest amphitheater ever built, capable of holding over 50,000 spectators for gladiatorial contests and public spectacles. Or the Pantheon in Rome, with its magnificent unsupported concrete dome, still the largest of its kind in the world after nearly 2,000 years. And let's not forget the aqueducts, incredible channels that used gravity to carry fresh water from distant sources into cities, providing for public baths, fountains, and private homes. These feats of engineering weren't just practical. They were powerful symbols of Rome's wealth, power, and ingenuity, projecting its dominance across the empire. Roman culture was a fascinating blend of its own traditions and the influences of the peoples it conquered, especially the Greeks. The Romans adopted Greek gods, giving them Roman names. Zeus became Jupiter, Hera became Juno, and so on. They admired Greek philosophy, art, and literature, often emulating and building upon them. Latin, the language of the Romans, became the lingua franca of the western part of the empire, and is the root of modern Romance languages like Italian, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. Roman law is another monumental legacy. The principles of Roman law, such as the idea that a person is innocent until proven guilty, have profoundly influenced legal systems around the world. But no empire lasts forever. By the 3rd century A.D., the Roman Empire began to face a series of crises. The crisis of the 3rd century saw a dizzying succession of emperors, constant civil war, economic collapse due to inflation, and barbarian invasions along its vast frontiers. The empire became too large and complex to be governed by a single man in a single city. Emperor Diocletian tried to solve this by splitting the empire into two halves, east and west, with a co-emperor for each. Later, Emperor Constantine moved the capital of the empire from Rome to a new city he named Constantinople, in the wealthier and more stable eastern part. He was also the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, a decision that would dramatically change the course of European history. The Western Roman Empire, however, continued to decline. It was plagued by internal decay, political instability, and relentless pressure from Germanic tribes migrating into its territories. The final blow came in 476 A.D., when the last Western Roman emperor, a young boy ironically named Romulus Augustus, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer. This date is traditionally marked as the end of the Western Roman Empire. But the story doesn't end there. The Eastern Roman Empire, which we now call the Byzantine Empire, with its capital at Constantinople, would survive and thrive for another 1,000 years, preserving Roman law, Greek culture, and Christian tradition long after Rome itself had fallen. So, what is the legacy of this colossal civilization? It's all around us. It's in our languages, our laws, our political institutions, our architecture, and our engineering. The story of Rome is a powerful lesson in both the incredible heights humanity can achieve and the fragility of even the mightiest empires. It's a story of republic and empire, of citizen and soldier, of concrete and law, a story that continues to captivate and teach us to this day. Rome wasn't just a place. It was an idea that shaped the very foundations of the world we live in. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the rise and fall of ancient Rome. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. Let me know in the comments what other civilizations you'd like to explore. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.